We started off, we were able to bring more than 250,000 people to march in Washington. And we all had to prepare a speech. I was very young, 23 years old, had all of my hair and a few pounds lighter.
I have the pleasure to present to this.
When A. Philip Randolph said, I now present to you young John Lewis, the National Chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
Brother John Lewis.
I looked to my right. I saw hundreds and hundreds of young people who had been involved during the early days. Looked straight ahead. I saw this sea of humanity. Then I looked to the left. I saw young black men and young white men up in the trees trying to get a better view. And then I said to myself, well, this is it. And I looked straight ahead again. And something said to me, go for it. And I opened my mouth and I started speaking.
We march today for jobs and freedom, but we have nothing to be proud of. But hundreds and thousands of our brothers are not here, for they're receiving starvation wages or no wages at all. Those who have said be patient and wait, we must say that we cannot be patient. We do not want our freedom gradually, but we want to be free now. The time will come when we will not confine our marching to Washington. We will march through the South, through the streets of Jackson, through the streets of Danville, through the streets of Cambridge, through the streets of Birmingham. We must say, wake up, America, wake up, for we cannot stop, and we will not and cannot be patient.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Creative Mornings. My name is Blake, and I help organize the Atlanta chapter here. And we're so glad that you're joining us. And we thought, what better way to kick off a Creative Mornings event than to take a moment and honor the late and great Senator John Lewis. And we just wanted to say thank you for your life, thank you for your legacy, thank you for your blood, sweat, and tears, and that the work continues on, and thank you for the example that you set. And we just wanted to say rest in peace and rest in power. So for those of you that have been to a Creative Mornings before, you know that this is not our typical setup. We are typically face-to-face. We have a bias of being with each other in community and connecting, but that's just not possible right now with the pandemic. And so we're just trying to make the most out of it, and we're thankful to be here live at the Friendly Human Studio in Old Fourth Ward, and we're thankful that you're joining us as well. And you know, for those that have been to Creative Mornings before, when we're in person, you know that a big part of that is connecting, it's getting inspired, and it's coffee. So even though we're remote, and even though this is a horrendous pandemic, we got you. We have coffee for you. So we want you to go out and get a free cup of coffee and a free pastry. You don't just get coffee, you get a pastry this month. And you can go to any of these places that are on screen. You can go to Hodgepodge on the east side, Urban Grind on the west side, Chrome Yellow, or Full Commission until noon today to get a free cup of coffee and a pastry. Just tell them you're with Creative Mornings and they'll put you on our tab. So be sure to do that. This month, we want you to tag along with us on social media. So if you are posting anything, make sure you add Atlanta_CM or CM Underdog. You can follow us, Atlanta_CM, to get the most information about our chapter. You can also go to our website, CreativeMornings.com, click on Atlanta, and sign up for our newsletter. We send usually 2 a month, It's easy, but it's a good way to find out who's coming up next and what we're doing for our next event. So every month we have themes, and this month our theme is appropriately Underdog. We are in a world right now that it seems so appropriate to celebrate the underdogs in our society. When you think about the issues that are going on right now with racial injustice, with the Black Lives Matter movement, that is all about being the underdog. Senator John Lewis, his life was about being the underdog. And those are some really heavy, serious topics. And today we wanted to shift and have some fun. We didn't want to just talk about some of those issues that relates to being an underdog. We wanted to have some fun. So what we decided to do was a little thing called the Underdog Rap Battle. And let's go ahead and roll that segment. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We put out the call for people to write a 30-second unique lyric set around being an underdog. We put that call out and we got thousands, hundreds, a handful of submissions, and we have narrowed it down to our top 3 that we are gonna choose as winner right now. In fact, our speaker today, Andy Mineo, is gonna choose who the winner is. But we want you to participate. We want you to chat along and to give, the People's Choice Award, perhaps. So we've got 3 contestants. I'm gonna put them up on screen, and they're gonna win some prizes. First place is gonna get some Apple AirPods, because those ain't cheap, but they're pretty sweet. So we're gonna give those away. We're gonna give a $50 gift card to Urban Grind. So, go get yourself some more coffee and pastries. And then third place, you're gonna win being on air at Creative Mornings. That's all you get. You can maybe get some emoji round of applause in the chat box. But I'm gonna roll through the 3 contestants, and the first up is Nephew Enthusiast. Roll it.
I've been meaning to address this. It's weird, I've been avoiding my checklist, because I almost went breathless when you were joking about looking for an exit. And if I could be honest, I wasn't planning on making this awkward, but awkward is becoming my mantra. I'm trying to see what you can't conquer. What's the deal? I'm not afraid of how you feel. If it's pitch black, baby, let's make a deal. I can handle your light work, because I'm about to pull up on the grass of all that trauma. And I'm praying to get you block high. It might hurt like hell, but I wish hell would come for you. Throw this hell up in the top now, ooh.
Look.
All right, Nephew Enthusiast, contestant number 1, thank you. Okay, get ready now for contestant number 2. Roll it.
Please just be considerate. I just started doing this. It's my first day on the job, and now I hope nobody notices my inflated ego. It's burning green like Chico. They say it's Kim Possible to rap. That's how the beat go. So till I get the swing of things, you can call me Underdog. I'm pigging out on practice in the mirror like an attention hog. I'll just be the class clown, the one nobody voted for, an unexpected victory that nobody has seen before.
All right, Nathan Ballard, contestant number 2, thank you. Next up, we have a duo submission. There were no rules around it had to be a single person, so we've got a duo coming at you now for contestant number 3.
Came on through with the same old crew, with a check 1, 2, but I ain't wanna do with the underdog, but I ain't my weedies, so I could be paying any racial cool. If I'm racial gold, then you done for. I'm Van Damme's the blood sport. If anybody wanna get cutthroat, I just don't wanna let anyone down. I feel like Max from the Goofy movie. I'm underdog like I'm Scooby-Dooby. Hercules, I could go to distance. Get animated like a schoolie coolie. Rejoice in the Lord now. I'm Muggsy on the court now. I'm never coming up short now. I'm never coming up short now.
All right, Fox and Tiger, you win first place for best mustache by far, Mr. Fox, Mr. Tiger, and that you reference Muggsy Bogues. That's good in my heart. But I'm not the judge. The judge for these 3 amazing contestants is the one, the only, Andy Mineo. So I'm going to turn it over to him now to tell you who is the champion.
All right. So
I personally, I'm feeling contestant number 1. I feel like we got to give her first place. First of all, she was the first one to turn hers in. Second, this little move at the beginning, those it's fantastic. And I can sense a little bit of Toby Nwigwe, inspiration even in the name. So I'm going with her for number 1. I loved it. It was also vulnerable, poetic, solid. These were all really good though. So this is really difficult for me. And usually, you ask for people to submit their raps. It can get pretty nightmarish, but these were all fantastic. So I'm gonna go with her for number 1. You're getting some AirPods. My second is gonna be Fox and Tiger. Fox and Tiger, you guys put a lot of work into this thing to make the production look like that. So definitely going with those guys. And 2, Nathan Ballard, I actually love that he chose a boom bap beat. He's actually got a really cool tone, cool voice. It's just, they all easily could have taken first place, but that's just how I'm gonna mark it. But great job. I'm actually really surprised. Yeah.
All right, there you have it.
Nephew enthusiast, first place winner. You're the grand champion. Congrats, way to go. We'll hit you up and get you those AirPods. Same for Fox and Tiger. We'll get you that $50 gift card. All right, now it is time to give you some partner shout outs because this is not easy to pull off every single month. So we want to give some love to people that help make this available and happen for you. First up is MailChimp. They are our marketing partner on a global level, and on a local level, they give us support each month for things like the free coffee that you can get and to help us just make this chapter amazing. They've been our local partner for almost 9 years. Thank you, MailChimp. You are the best. They acquired recently a publication called Courier, and you can get a free copy, a unique copy just for Creative Mornings. It's like a mini version, The Business of Design. We're gonna drop a link into the chat. Malik should be putting that in there. You can click it and you can go download your own digital mini copy just for Creative Mornings. Okay, next up is WordPress. They're our official web publishing partner. We love WordPress. They have an amazing campaign right now called Own Your Content that's helping artists understand the rights around what they publish and what they put out and how to protect your art. So make sure you check that out, Own Your Content. You can Google Own Your Content, Creative Mornings, or WordPress and find that, and we'll drop a link in the chat as well. Okay, next up is Basecamp, because it's a bunch of creative folks watching. You know you need some project management. You need some organization. You need to try out Basecamp. And while you're at it, you can try out their new email program called Hey. Hey, I need help with my email. Hey, you can hit them up. You can check it out. You get a 14-day free trial. We'll drop a link to hey.com in the chat as well. And then next up, we are so thankful for our local partner, KEH Camera. If you want to buy used or brand new gear, be sure to check out KEH.com. You can also find ways to trade in your gear or sell your gear. If you need a little cash right now, go check out KEH. We're thankful for them. They've been a partner of ours for a long time, and we're very thankful for their support. Next up is a shout out to VidLoft. VidLoft is a product that Friendly Human, where we are right now, has created, and it's a chance for you, a content producer, to get an easier way to produce that content. So maybe you like being on camera, maybe you like writing, maybe you like the creative behind the content, but you don't like the production side. This is a way for you to get it 10 times faster at 1/10 of the cost. So we'll drop a link in the chat now for VidLoft. Big shout out to you guys, and to Nick and Justin running the cameras right now. Thank you for all of your hard work and energy and effort going into these live streaming events. It's not easy. All right, next I want to thank CSpark Go. They run all of our social media. If you need help with PR, if you need help with digital marketing, be sure to check out CSpark Go. And then also I want to thank Matchstick. It's our producing partner. It's where I work. They're a branding firm here in town. If you need help clarifying your message, if you need help standing out, be sure to hit up Matchstick and go to matchstick.com. Thank you so much. And a couple of announcements before I introduce Andy. One is we have a field trip that's coming up. The date is soon, TBD. Keep it on your radar. We're thinking like first couple of weeks of August. But we're going to do a field trip, which if you don't know what a field trip is, it's sort of a mini gathering of Creative Mornings. So typically we have these larger events, lecture series, and a field trip is a chance to just be in a more intimate group. So right now those are, virtual Zoom calls. But if you're interested in this topic, check it out. It's a good way to meet people. This is with the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta, and they're going to be talking about how COVID-19 has impacted local charities and nonprofits around our city. They're a great organization. They support and help a lot of the nonprofit work that's happening in our city. So be sure to check that out. We'll put that on social media and in our email newsletter as well. Okay, next month, we're talking about stress. Now, some of y'all might be stressing out about the pandemic, about other things, finances, health, politics. There's a lot in the world right now that can be causing stress. And instead of finding a typical speaker like we do, we actually wanted to just call a timeout and take a deep breath and ask you, the Creative Mornings community in Atlanta, what do you need? What is stressing you out right now? So we're going to send out a survey, and we would love your participation into that survey and give us some feedback on what's stressing you out. And we're actually going to design next month's event based on whatever you say. And everything is up for grabs. It might be something like this. It might be IG live chats. It might be more field trips. We don't really know yet. We're going to take a risk, but we felt like it's time to shake it up a little bit as we enter month 5 into the pandemic. And you guys are watching all kinds of stuff online. You know you're tired. Your eyes are bleeding from Zoom calls all day. You don't need another live lecture series thing. So tell us what you do need, and we're going to create something really special next month for you. So be on the lookout for that survey link. Okay, my part is almost complete. And let me give an introduction to Andy Mineo. I'm so excited about Andy speaking and sharing today. I'm personally a big fanboy, so I'm excited to hear his take on Underdog. He's a rapper and producer with Billboard charting records and sold-out tours across the United States and Europe. His hit, You Can't Stop Me, not only won an ESPN award for the top MLB walk-up song, which you guys know you've thought about your walk-up song. Most people think You Can't Stop Me is the best, so there you go. It also went certified gold, no big deal. And it's sold over 500,000 copies worldwide. He has 1.2 million Spotify followers and listeners. He's a Syracuse native. He was in New York City for a while. Now he's in Atlanta, and we're glad to have him. So please give a warm, virtual, digital round of applause for Andy Mineo.
Oh, man. What's going on, Creative Mornings community, my people in Atlanta? This is my first time on stage since the pandemic has begun. Unfortunately, there's nobody in the audience, and I feed off of the participation of the audience. So, Blake, you're just gonna have to shout me down with some amens, all right? My name's Andy Mineo. I'm a rapper, obviously, as Blake introduced me. But I'm just gonna need to get one thing out of the way off the rip. I understand that I look like a lobster. Yesterday I shot a music video, and I'm new to Atlanta. I'm not used to this sunshine. I lived in New York City for the last 13 years, and I just got cooked. My wife is normally the one, making sure that I have lotion and put on the lotion, and she wasn't there to help me with that. So I got scorched, and of course, the day before, I have to give a talk. So good for me. But no, I am new to Atlanta. Obviously, I said I lived in New York for a while. Being new to Atlanta is fun. I get spotted a little more often while I'm here. The other day I was on the highway, literally like this week, and I'm in my car and picking my nose per usual. And of course, out the periffs, I see hands waving, and I look over I'm a thumb picker, so I'm picking, and I notice a fan looking at me, and he's like waving me down, like, Andy Mineo, and I'm like, okay, this is awkward. So I just hit the gas, but I'm in a 4-cylinder, so nothing really happened. But I did get away from the guy. Shout out to you. He's probably watching right now. I'm sorry. But I'm loving Atlanta, and big shout out to Creative Mornings for having me here in Atlanta. This is getting me an opportunity to exercise some of my other skills besides rapping, so hope you guys enjoy it. Now, today's theme is the underdog, so let me start off with this question. How many of you guys would be interested to watch a movie about a rich guy who is born into a wealthy family, has everything handed to him, and then goes on to be successful and dies happy? No? No one? Okay. Nobody. But let me ask you this. How many of you would be interested in watching a movie about a Jamaican bobsledding team that, in spite of having never seen snow, defies all odds to win the Winter Olympics? Huh? That's right. Cool Runnings. No, it's one of my personal favorites. But the stories of underdogs are very compelling. And, you know, all of them. We got Rocky, we got Rudy, we got 8 Mile, we have Slumdog Millionaire, we have a personal favorite of mine, Karate Kid. I mean, the point is, underdogs have compelling stories, and we just need to tell them. So let me tell you a little bit about my underdog story. I grew up in a single-parent home in Syracuse, New York, upstate, and my mother would work the night shift to make ends meet. She was a shameless garage sale shopper. And when I say shameless, I'm serious. Like, if you complimented her at any point in time about what she was wearing, you know, she would immediately tell you, yeah, got my shoes for $1 at a garage sale. And, you know, she did that so that I could have some of the cooler sneakers and provide for me. So I am also slightly chubby. I often wear glasses. I'm a white guy who raps, and I am considered by many to be a Christian rapper. So these aren't necessarily the makings of what we call cool in my music industry. But somehow I figured out how to have a successful rap career, be able to buy a house, you know, provide for my family with it. And so we're having a good time. You know, as a kid, me and my best friend Ryan, we didn't have a lot of money. So what we had to do was go out and buy CD singles. These cost like $2, $3, as opposed to like the $18 you would spend for an album. And on that CD would be the regular version, you know, the clean version, and then like the instrumental. We used to break dance to these things, and when we would get done dancing, we would take the instrumentals and we would write our first raps to them. And so that kind of began the passion of rapping for me. Ryan went and stole a couple computer programs, and we were able to use those to start figuring out how to record music. I don't recommend that for anybody, but it's just part of the story and what happened. I went and I would buy a computer microphone. It's like this $12 microphone that you put on your desktop, and it was like real pencil thin. We started rapping on that, and then I would start saving birthday and Christmas money every year to compile them to be able to buy the next piece of equipment. And so what I'm going to talk about today is the advantages of the underdog. And the first thing I want to get into is just tell you guys, basically, my story is I did the most with what I had. And that leads me to my first point, which is this. There is opportunity in your lack. Underdogs are often under-resourced, so they need to overactivate their creativity. That's essentially what I had to do growing up with my friend Ryan, figure these things out. We didn't have a lot, but we were still able to have fun. I also believe this, that limitations can push the boundaries of creativity and force us to look at things differently. You guys know this, that in school, I had a teacher once tell me this, options enslave you. He said limitations are actually great for helping you push the boundaries of creativity. Oftentimes in school, teachers will give us those limitations. One time I was told to create a song completely using sound effects and no actual instruments. And I learned so much from that. I stretched out a car honking horn and I turned it into a synthesizer and created one of my own unique sounds that I still use today. And so, there's a lot of benefit actually to that. In other words, what I'm trying to say is limitations can help us push to find new and interesting stories, new and interesting things. And one thing I will say is if you don't have much, we are often self-conscious of that. We think that, man, by not having a lot, we won't have good technique, or we won't have the best cameras, or we won't have the best lighting. But what you can have is an interesting story. And I believe that good story trumps good technique any day of the week. And you can tell by some of our submissions today, the stuff that they sent us was incredible, and they did it with very little. So big shout out to you guys. Let me give you 2 examples of this. There's an artist I work with. His name is Words Played. He actually is on my label, Minor League. And we had spent so much money on working on his project that we basically ran through the marketing budget. So we didn't have much for the marketing. And so we had to get really creative to think about how can we pull this thing off. And so what he did is we actually went and we thrifted some really awful clothes. That was very cheap. We bought a really cheap, awful camera. And we created a low fidelity hour. What this was actually a remake. This was a remake of a public access television show. Here's a couple slides from it. As you can see, we made it look, we borrowed this space from our church, and we made it look like a public access TV show. Here goes Words Played singing his heart out with an awful zoom in. And it ended up being great. So let me play you a little clip from that right now. It's hilariously awkward and delightful. Is it playing? No, click one more time. Oh. Also my first time with PowerPoint. Oh, there it goes.
Welcome and good evening to Low Fidelity Hour. I'm your host with the most, Marcus Sanchez, and I've got with me my wife, Stacy. We got top talent from here in the city all over, and tonight we got a real treat for you, our Lo-Fi Lily Flowers. We got Words Played with his top hit, Kane Cares. Give it up for him.
Oh, here we go.
You guys will have to go ahead and watch the rest of it on YouTube. Just look for Low Fidelity Hour, Words Played. It's a trip. So here's another example, and it ended up being this great marketing piece for us. And it was so good that it even attracted the attention of Fred Armisen, who is obviously just an incredible comedian and artist himself. And John got a chance to connect with him. So here's another example of how limitations can push creativity. I'm in hip hop, and one of the first major pieces of production equipment for sampling was this machine called the ASR-10. And what it did was it allowed you to play records into the sampling machine, and then you could chop them up and begin what ended up changing music kind of forever. The issue was it only had a sample limitation because of hard drive space for about 4 seconds. And so there was this producer named RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan who decided he wanted to try to get the whole phrase of a record that he was sampling into the ASR-10, but he only had 4 seconds, so he had to speed up the sample to try to fit everything into it. And by speeding up the sample, he created this iconic sound in hip-hop known as the chipmunk effect. Let me play you an example of it. This is Kanye West, Through the Wire, and you guys have probably heard this before.
Yo, G, they can't stop me from rapping, can they? Can they, hot? I spit it through the wire, man. There's too much stuff on my heart right now, man.
So, yeah, you guys can go listen to the whole thing. You've probably heard that sound a million times, and people recreate it all the time now in hip-hop. producers were able to use their limitations to create this new and iconic sound in hip hop. And so once again, we see an advantage of limitations pushing creative boundaries. So essentially what I'm saying is necessity can be the mother of invention. But if necessity is the mother of invention, then failure is the mother of innovation. This brings me to my second point, which is this. The underdog has the freedom to fail. You know, I talk to some artists sometimes. They come to me about music and they want my advice. A lot of these guys are just getting started. I get questions in my DMs, and a lot of people ask this question. What if nobody listens to what I make? And I just tell them, nobody's listening right now. You have nothing to lose. Just create it and put it out. And then they say to me, well, what if I create something and I put it out and they don't like what I make? Make something else. Just keep going. You literally have nothing to lose. I think that not having anything to lose was actually one of the biggest advantages to me when I started, because I was really bad. And the fact that I didn't have a big audience to criticize me gave me the freedom and the confidence to continue to keep creating and get better over time. You got to remember, I was just not good when I started rapping, but over time and a commitment to having fun, a commitment to my craft, I got a lot better, and I actually made a career out of this. So the underdog has the freedom to fail. The underdog has everything to gain. But if the underdog has everything to gain, the top dog has everything to lose. And I want to talk to you real quick about the fears of the failures after you have success. A lot of times success, when you are no longer the underdog, actually can be more detrimental to you than being the underdog. I just want to explain to you guys again, this is my whole point, there are advantages to where you are right now in being the underdog. I'll tell you this, if I went into a boxing match and I was the underdog, I would have all the motivation in the world. But if you're expected to win and you don't win, there's so much shame, there's so much failure that comes along with that. I would always rather go into a fight being an underdog, but that's just me. Let me give you an example of this. I've basically been an underdog my whole career, but I had this moment in my career recently where one of my songs went gold, and Blake talked about this. And I remember the day that I got the gold plaque delivered to my house. I opened it up with my family and my friends, and we cracked it open, and I pulled it out, and it was so beautiful. And I thought to myself, wow, this is such a moment of success. And in that same moment of excitement came a deep level of fear and insecurity. And the questions that I asked myself were, can I do it again? Can I replicate the success? Will I ever be able to live up to this again? And there now became this, in a way, this sort of pressure to duplicate the success that I've already had instead of just enjoying the success that I did have and get right back to work. There's actually a quote from a book that I really love. The book is by Donald Miller. It's called Scary Close, and it's about vulnerability. And in it, he talks about the fear that success can actually bring. And so let me go ahead and look at that. Hey, this clock is off if you guys could hit it for me. But I'll read the quote to you guys. Dr. Fiore suggested that succeeding in a career is not unlike walking on a tightrope. The more success we achieve, the higher the rope. As we gain something, we have more to lose. Success causes a ravine beneath our careers that grows more deadly, creating a kind of fear of trying. He said, the fear of letting people down is one of the primary reasons people procrastinate. In that book by Donald Miller, Scary Close, he talks about his career. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Donald Miller, but he had massive success as an author. And he tells this story that when he wrote his first book, he got his first deal, he would go up into the mountains or to the cabin, wherever he was creating. He'd go take walks, smoke his pipe or his cigars, whatever he was doing, and have fun, enjoy himself, go back to the cabin and write. He turned in his first book, and it was a success. The publishers loved it. People seemed to like it, and they said, go ahead, do it again. So he said, great, I'm confident. Let me go do it again. He goes out, does the same exact thing. He goes to the cabin, out to the mountains, smokes his cigar, enjoys himself, and this time he wrote his book in an even shorter period of time, and he delivered what went to go on to be a New York Times bestseller. You guys might know it. It's called Blue Like Jazz. New York Times bestseller, smashing, huge success. And with success comes a tremendous amount of praise, but what's also attached to praise is criticism. And what Donald ended up doing, and he admits this in his book, is he goes, I was trying to anticipate the critics in my future writings because after absorbing all of it, I started to become fearful or, conscious at least of their criticism. And he said in his writing, he started to try to address the critics by putting caveats in his writing and moseying around words. And although I do understand this perspective, all that stuff ended up creating writing that was not his best. And one of his friends called him out on it and said, you know, Donald, one of the things that you're missing in your current writing that you used to have is this fearlessness. And he said, I think you've become too careful. And that leads me to my next point, which is this. Creatives that are too careful cannot make disruptive art. Disruption is necessary to challenge the status quo and to move culture forward. I think this is just an obvious one. The more fearless you are, the more willing you are to push boundaries and to stumble upon something new. And I will also say this, that this underdog mentality, the advantages of the underdog are so powerful that even the top dogs in industries, the top dog athletes in the world, utilize this underdog mentality to help them either gain new success or to maintain the success that they've already had. And let me give you a couple examples here. Michael Phelps, who is hands down the most successful gold-winning Olympic medalist of all time, talks about it right here.
Ian Thorpe's arguably one of the greatest swimmers in the world. Incredible competitor, great guy. And he said in 2008, he said it's impossible for somebody to win 8 gold medals. And I was like, all right, well, wait and see. But he actually said in 2016, going into 16, he said no one over the age of 30 can win an individual swimming Olympic gold. And I was like, all right. So I finally said something to him afterwards. I was like, dude, you just have no confidence in your boy? He goes, no, I know how your mind works, and I know how much that would give you to help you really kind of fight through it. And watching watching that 200 fly where the Japanese and the Hungarian were basically running me down. If we had one more meter, I wouldn't have won that race. So it was good. So it really did help push me to get there and to finish how I needed to.
I love that clip. He talks about Ian Thorpe knowing that putting doubting messages out into the media would actually push Michael to go even further and defy odds, for him to essentially become the underdog even though he was on top. A lot of you guys know about this documentary that's out right now. It's called The Last Dance by Michael Jordan. And it has almost become a joke on the internet. It has become a joke on the internet that Michael Jordan, people are calling him petty, but really what it is he would literally invent things that did not happen in order to give him a fight to pick with somebody, so that would inspire and motivate him to prove them wrong or to defeat them. Even though he had won a ton of NBA championships, 6 altogether, he utilized this mentality of being an underdog to help him get ahead, to the point where there's memes all over the internet about this. This is one of my favorite ones. Someone literally does nothing at all, Michael Jordan. That's it. That's all I needed. He's literally picking a fight with any and everybody, making stuff up in order to get the advantage. Here's another one that I love, and I took that personal. That's become kind of a quote in our house. If anybody does anything, it's funny. So let's. This is really hard without a live audience, because normally you get a couple ha-has and keep it moving. There we go. All right. Well, let me head into my last point. I only got a couple minutes left. Number 3 is the underdog has its day. Underdogs are often underappreciated, they're under-recognized, and they're pushed to the margins. They're usually the uncool people. But I've found that if you stick to what you do long enough, you're going to have your day. Usually whatever is in the periphery of popular culture or success becomes the dominant sound, aesthetic, or trend eventually. This is the story of hip hop. This is the story of punk music. This is the story of rock and roll. At one point, it was not the popular sound. It was actually just in the fringes. Maybe young kids were into it. But it eventually becomes the popular sound. Why? Because people get bored and they want something new and interesting. And usually what's on the periphery makes its way to the center over time. Let me give you a couple examples of this. In 2011, I started wearing fanny packs. And it kind of started off as a joke, but I also was thinking to myself, I was living in New York City at the time, and I was like, these are really helpful because I don't want a huge backpack, and I don't have, there's not enough room in my pockets, but the fanny pack actually could hold the things, my phone, my keys, my wallet. And so I started wearing them, but I wore them back off to the side. I was like, I'm not going to put it right in the front here. And of course, I was ruthlessly humiliated by my friends who would laugh at me. But I was like, you know what? I'm an innovator, right? I always say that. And a few years later, what is actually really funny is that 2018, it was considered the biggest trend of the year was fanny packs and shoulder slings, which are basically fanny packs for your shoulder. And some of those very same people who would laugh at me, friends like Alex Medina, he ended up wearing them all the time, and so I would give him as much crap as he gave me. But that's an example of things that were on the periphery. They eventually have their day. They come around to popular culture. Let me give you another example here. This is Fieldy. He's from the band Korn. He's a buddy of mine. Him and Head are in a band called Korn. And I went to go see them live one day, and I pulled up on them in the tour bus, and as I was hanging out, I got to see Fieldy had jeans on, and there were scribbles all over his jeans, little words, little pictures. And I said, yo, are those designer jeans? And he goes, no, I bought these at PacSun. He's like, I've been scribbling and drawing on my jeans since I was a kid. And I said, why is that? He said, well, we didn't have a lot of money, but I was able to do this and kind of be creative and fun. And he's like, seems like it's a trend now, but I used to get made fun of for it. And the reason why I asked him if they were designer jeans is because I thought I had seen them. And here they are. Gucci actually made a pair of jeans with scribbles on them. They're called the Gucci Scribble Design, and they're sold for $1,200. So let's just start there. It's a perfect example. Let me give you one more example, and then I'm going to wrap up. These are the Air Monarchs. These are actually designed by a good friend of mine, Jason Maiden, and these have been one of the most successful shoes ever, but they have been purely utilitarian. Jason told me the story that when he designed them for Nike, they were like, we want the dad who works all day, and he needs a comfortable shoe. And they have, hilariously in culture become known as the dad shoe. Normally you'll see a football coach or a dad or somebody mowing their lawn wearing these. They've been made fun of as one of the ugliest shoes ever, orthopedic shoes. They get all kinds of jokes on them. Here's a meme that is one of my personal favorites. Dads out here can't wait to turn these bad boys green this mowing season. I'm sure you have all seen these many times before. Here is what eventually happened with the Air Monarchs. There has become this fad for dad hats, dad sneakers, and they have turned a corner. This is the Air Monarch in Hype Bay, which is a Hype Beast iteration, next to some of the biggest and coolest brands in the world like Bape. And ironically, here's my favorite picture, is all these young guys, super swagged out, wearing Air Monarchs and fanny packs. So let's just bring it all together one good time. Now let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up because I'm over time. Let's recover what we all talked about here. So for the underdog, there's opportunity in your lack. The underdog has the freedom to fail. and the underdog eventually has its day. You know, I am a rapper, so I'd be out of pocket if I did not end with a little rap. So here's a lyric from one of my songs that I feel like encapsulates what we talked about today. Can you see creativity in your limitations? Do you see roadblocks as an invitation to something greater? When the door closes, are you excited or shaken? Is it from God or from Satan? Do you feel guided or feel forsaken? I think the main reason why we love underdog movies, we love the stories of underdogs, is because every time we see an underdog, we see a little bit of ourselves. Thank you guys for your time.
All right, Andy, thanks so much. Love it, man. That was awesome. I'm looking straight into this camera, but I can also see you right there. So I say thank you. That was awesome, man. I love it. We're going to do some Q&A. We've been collecting questions in the chat. And Andy, I got a question for you now. First one that popped in from Andrew, who produces Creative Mornings chapter here in Atlanta. Thank you, Andrew, for your question. He wants to know who in music has inspired your specific sound the most.
Oh, man. My sound today, that's a tough one because I think over the years, just growing up a student and fan of hip hop, I've pulled little things from everybody, you know what I mean? Starting off in New York City and New York, Central New York and Syracuse, I was really into like a East Coast New York boom bap lyricism. And so rappers like, you know, Cannabis, Jay-Z, Eminem, DMX, that Northeast sound had a lot to do with my lyricism. And then I would say just great songwriters have always inspired me. You know, the John Mayers of the world. So I pull a little bit from everywhere. And then, you know, naturally, I just connected with a lot of people from the South. And so I started understanding cadences and rap styles from Southern rappers and Southern beats, and I pull that in there. So you get a little boom bap, you get a little lyricism, you get a little trap music, and some good songwriting in there as well. So yeah, I couldn't pin one person, but I would say it's a charcuterie board of kinds.
Charcuterie. All right. Sonia asks, how do you use the underdog mentality in a fake it till you make it society?
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't like fake it till you make it, obviously. I know that's a thing, but I vehemently push against it because of point 3, is that the underdog eventually has its day. Meaning if you stay true to what you do long enough, you will eventually have your day. You don't have to try to chase culture. Oftentimes you can be exactly who you are and it'll make its way around to you. I think the thing about faking it is once you start, you kind of got to keep that lie up. But you can honestly always be yourself for as long as you're alive, because there's only one of you, and that's unique enough. There's a unique story there. So I am not a fan of fake it till you make it. I'm a fan of real and authentic. And typically by being real and authentic, the people who are going to connect most deeply with you are going to find you. It's called you've heard this, like your vibe attracts your tribe. And so I have completely gone against that, and I've made a career out of it, you know. And I've made a happy life out of just being exactly who I am. So I think if you fake it and you make it, you might have success, but I don't know if you'll have happiness, and I think that's one of the worst failures.
All right, next question is from Sue Youngblood. Shout out to Sue, thank you for your question. She asks if there are any other books you can suggest, and how do you decide which books you're reading for life guidance?
Yeah, there's a lot of books on creativity that have been fun for me. I wish I had them on. If I wish I knew this question, I would have wrote a few more down. But you know, things like that have been big ones. It's called like Steal Like an Artist. Those that help you think about some things creatively. There's a book called Imagine that talked about the tension between the sacred and the unsacred, the unholy, and how you create in the midst of that. There's another one that I like. It's called, gosh, I'm blowing it right now. There's like a handful of them on my desk that I read every few days. You know what? How about I do this? I'm going to go to my Twitter later today, and I'm going to go ahead and tweet out a few books from that collection so I can give you the real names. I don't want to butcher these authors' names or their book titles, and I will go ahead and tweet them out so you can have them. At Andy Mineo, you'll find it.
All right. Now, Nate asks, what are some good creative challenges to give yourself to push your art and drive your creativity?
Limitations. That was actually, my first point. To push and drive creativity, I think when you give yourself limitations, it causes you to start looking at things differently. And so, for example, my teacher told me to create a song only using sound effects and not using real drum sounds. And so I ended up taking the sound of a staple gun and I turned it into a kick sound, by altering it and messing with it. I took the sound of a horn and I turned it into a trumpet. People screaming, Foley sounds. So I think it's really fun when you set limitations and then you force yourself to work inside of those, and you'll start to take that kick sound and twist it and flip it and look at it differently and create something new. Give yourself time limitations. I'm going to make this song in 1 hour or 4 hours. I'm only going to, make this rhyme pattern rhyme multi-syllable. There's a lot of ways that you can do that. And in any discipline that you're in, I think you can set self-limiting systems that can force you to push your creativity. If you just have no limitations, it is often a lot harder for people to start creating and to start finding something new and interesting and fun. So set a limit on yourself and get after it.
All right, next up is another question from Andrew, this is a fashion question. So obviously you see the future of fashion. Are you wearing anything unique now that you think will be popular in 5 to 10 years? What's the next resurgence of the thing?
I don't know if you guys can see my pants. Can they see or no?
No.
No? All right, so I have on a tremendously large pair of Carhartt pants. He's going to try to give you a quick view of the greatness. No.
You could back up.
I wouldn't, let me back up a little bit. I wouldn't say that I'm a fashion guru, but I do enjoy and appreciate fashion. I spent some time in Japan this year, and the team is trying to figure it out rapidly. These are tremendously baggy. The skinny look has been in for quite a while. I actually thrifted these. Not too long ago for like $2. They're actually made by Carhartt. And they're so baggy and so big that I was like, maybe I should get these tailored or altered. And then I put them on today and, I rolled them up and made them real wide. And I just feel like that's one of the things that's going to come back. I think fashion goes in cycles, usually about 7-year cycles or so. Something that was, whack and old and, oh my gosh, too baggy, we'll never wear that. It eventually comes back. Same thing with skinny jeans, fashion all over. I mean, the stuff that your parents were wearing, at one point, you made fun of them for, and now you're wearing it. So fashion goes in cycles. I think baggy is definitely on the way back. It's already here, but it's going to continue to go. And this kind of boxy, wide look is very Japanese. I think it's going to have another moment here.
All right, no more skinny jeans. Jeez. Thanks a lot, Andy.
I mean, wear skinny jeans. It's just, do what you do.
You referenced the Bulls documentary, The Last Dance. Man, I love that footage of Jordan and Pippen in the 90s with those suits.
Yeah.
Those suits were gigantic, quad X suits.
Yeah.
All right, next question. This is from Justin O. He asks, how do you strike a balance between preserving and honoring your roots in hip hop versus pushing forward to create something new and fresh?
Yeah, that's a great question, a great tension that I'm always trying to figure out. Because there is often a pressure sometimes there's a pressure to ride trends because there's a pressure for success. For example, now that my creativity is no longer my hobby but my career, I still have fun, but at the same time I also need it to work because you know, it working is, you know, my livelihood is predicated on that. The fact that you guys buy albums, you buy merchandise, you buy things. So sometimes decisions aren't purely made out of creativity. Some of them are also made out of like, I think this is going to work because this is what's trending. And I hate to say that, but there's just more riding on it now. Like I was talking about in point 2, the underdogs, the people who don't have careers in this, don't have to provide or pay their assistants or their managers or their touring team or their booking agents, right? So there's a lot less fear there. But I try to stay as true to the craft as possible. And I try to preserve some of my boom bap, hip hop, New York sound and find interesting ways to meld it with what's happening so you don't just completely get left behind. The thing about innovation is it requires failure. And when I was working on my album Uncomfortable, that was one of the things that I put on my computer stand was do not be afraid to fail. Failure is the mother of innovation. And so I've been trying to find ways to innovate, but you need failure. And to fail, you need to try a lot. You need to fail a lot to be able to stumble upon something new. And failing a lot is also something that takes time. So I need to get in that studio and be able to work, you know, 3-4 months failing, creating something that's never going to come out in order to stumble upon maybe one idea that will come out and change things. You know what I'm saying? So, but in the business we're in, you know, the longer that you go without releasing something, the more impatient people get, and the more they're like, do you even rap anymore? And I'm like, I'm in the studio every day trying to create something new and great and interesting. So those are some of the tensions I face, and I'm trying to figure them out.
All right, last question for you. This comes from me. So your livelihood, I would assume as an artist, is live events, performing, touring is a big part of how you survive and how you thrive. What does your life look like right now in the pandemic? What does an artist, a rapper's career in a COVID world look like?
Yeah. Well, for some rappers, I know they might not be doing too well because they live way above their means, meaning they started getting checks from show money and were like, time to buy 4 Bentleys. And I'm just like, you know, that just has never been my approach. Me and my wife actually live way below our means, and we invest a lot. And so when this pandemic hit, you know, I told this story online before, but I drive a 2010 Honda Civic, and I rap for a living. And I could buy any car that I want. The sans like a Lamborghini or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I remember me and my wife went into the Tesla and shop, and we were gonna buy a Tesla. And you know, I thought about it, and I just said, you know what, I'd rather invest this money into a house or something that's gonna appreciate and grow instead of putting it all into this car. And so we moved down here to Atlanta, we bought a house, actually we bought 2 houses, and we're investing in them and watching them grow, and they've already accrued, you know, $100,000 plus. And so in this pandemic, the way that I'm surviving and the way that I'm living is, one, just continuing to live below my means and be frugal. Bought this car cash, and it gets me around to the studio and where I gotta go. So that's a whole nother talk. We could talk about finances and how to make money stretch as an artist. But 2, I'm in the studio every day creating art and creating music, and there's a tension in releasing art and music right now because there's so much happening in our country with continued racial struggles that are being pushed to the forefront yet again. And it feels oftentimes insensitive to release in that climate, or to not address it or talk about it. And in a lot of ways, I don't even want to. I'd rather listen. I'd rather be absorbing information and ideas right now around those things. I don't feel like I have to be a leading voice in those areas. So that's another conundrum and a tension. Is some people are saying, we need music. We need something to help get us through. And then some people are like, if you're going to talk, you better say something important. So I'm releasing music. We're planning on it. I actually pushed back a release date because it was in the midst of everything happening. But I'm in the studio every day. We're creating art. We're going to start rolling it out here as soon as next Friday. And yeah, I think the other form of income for me has been through Cameo. So I'm able to give shout outs to my fans for their birthdays, for celebrations, things like that. So if you know anybody who wants a booking for that, you can hit me there and give shout outs. Two has been merchandise. So just creating cool t-shirts and capsules and things like that. Those are on andymineo.com. Go to the storefront and you can get stuff like that. So that's been helpful for me.
All right, Andy, thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing that with us. And hey, that's time. We're wrapping up. We will see you next month. Be sure to fill out that survey we're going to send out, and we hope to see everyone soon.